Mascot horror is probably one of the most widely debated gaming genres of all time. I mean, the insane oversaturation of this style of game has become really apparent over the past couple years. I mean, this genre has everything from FNAF, Hello Neighbor, Poppy Playtime, Garten of Banban. And while some of these games are actually pretty good, not looking at you, Banban, the genre as a whole is mainly seen as like a little way of getting kids into the horror genre. And while it definitely does succeed at doing that for the most part, there's some games that just really go above and beyond and make like genuinely good experiences. And today we're gonna be talking about one of those. Today we're gonna be talking about one of my new personal favorite Mascot horror games that I didn't check out until very recently, and that is My Friendly Neighborhood. Hi everybody, my name is Benjerizer and welcome back to my channel. Guys, today we're gonna be talking about why this game is absolutely awesome. And now this isn't one of the most popular Mascot horror games out there, so I figured why not give a little plot synopsis and go through the whole game, talk about what I love, and yeah, let's just hop right into it. So without further ado, let's go. So one of the main critiques people have with the whole Mascot horror genre is that every game kind of feels similar. I mean, we've had some pretty good ones over the years that kind of innovate the genre. I mean, just think back to the first FNAF. That was a revolutionary game. And even more recently with things like Finding Frankie, for example, which is more of like a parkour style game. But I'd honestly argue that My Friendly Neighborhood is probably the most different game in this category. From what I've heard, this game is very similar to things like Resident Evil, which, by the way, if this video gets to, we'll say like 20 likes, I will play Resident Evil on the channel because I have it and I would really like to play it, and I want to see how actually like scary it is. But this is really just a huge breath of fresh air for this genre, and I freaking love that. And this game's gameplay is probably its strongest point, because you actually get to fight back against the monsters, and you take them down, like, constantly. It's kind of awesome. But we'll get into that in a second. So let's just hop right into the story. So I'd personally split this game up into 5 parts. So let's just start with part 1. So this game starts with a little cutscene that shows that the normal news channels and normal channels on the TV have been kind of overtaken by this goofy little program. And once we actually spawn into the game, we are met with our player character, Gordon O'Brien. And I swear, man, this is one of my favorite Mascot horror protagonists of all time. This man is really funny. He's got the quips, he's got the jokes, he's got that serious attitude to pair with this kind of goofy style game. I just love him to pieces. And basically, he's a repairman who's been tasked with taking out the antenna that's broadcasting the My Friendly Neighborhood show over the typical channels you'd see on TV. But boy, is this guy in for a wild ride. First, we meet Ricky, who's this little sock puppet guy who's probably the only real friendly face in the game. He's super silly and has a lot of great line deliveries. I love him too. He's super silly. But basically, he tells us it's probably not the best idea to continue on our journey to take out this antenna because he has a reason for doing it, and we're probably not going to make it out alive. And then we see someone run into the studio building, and of course, naturally, we chase after them. But it turns out this person is a puppet. More on that later. And after finding a gun that shoots letters, which is kind of awesome, and a wrench, we are met with our first couple enemies of the game that are really going to be the main ones we encounter throughout the game's runtime. And honestly, I love all these characters. They're so silly, but can be genuinely kind of threatening if they're in large numbers, and it can get kind of nuts. So first up, we have Norman, who, he kind of reminds me of like Ernie in a way from like Sesame Street. And this guy is really freaking goofy. Then we have Junebug, who I honestly hate. I freaking hate this character. She runs at you so fast, way faster than all the other puppets do, and she can be insanely annoying. I'd argue she's probably the most annoying puppet. Then we have Leonard, who's pretty slow, but he can take a bit more damage, I think. And honestly, he's just kind of there. Like, I feel like he doesn't have as much characterization as the other two do. And then we have the one who you, like, never see in the game, Liliana. And I love her design. She looks great. And she, like, spins around and stuff. She's super silly. And then we have my goat, George. This man is absolutely hilarious. If you tie him up with duct tape once you knock him out, he will just start saying the most random nonsense. And I love him. He He's the town taxi driver, apparently. And every time I see him, he's just so goofy looking, and I absolutely love him. But basically, in this section, you're in a little town area, and you're supposed to find all these different blocks that eventually create the word neighbor. And there's some really neat puzzles in here, and this whole section really just introduces the game in such a great way. Like, when I played this for the first time, I was absolutely shocked at how difficult this game was. And I was playing on normal mode. And granted, I haven't played on the higher difficulties just yet, even though I'm planning on playing this game for a third time because it's really freaking fun. But in this section, you also meet this one character named Pearl, who is one of a couple enemies that you can actually help later on. Now, she's also the only one that I've actually helped in my personal playthroughs, but I've heard the other quests for helping the dogs and Ray later on are also super good, and I will definitely be checking those out on my third playthrough. But our interactions with her are actually really sweet, and it shows that these puppets aren't really bad. They're kind of just like misguided, and we see a lot more of that later in the game, especially in the third act. And it really makes this game a lot deeper than you'd expect, and I freaking love that. But eventually, we find all the letters. We get a letter from the letters. Makes perfect sense, trust me. And then doing that gets us a crank and what looks like a map. Now, this eventually brings us to our next section of the game, which is... Now, this section took me absolutely forever on my first playthrough. Basically, the sewer section is a giant maze. It's really hard to just, like, get through this without kind of knowing your way. But in hindsight, I actually think this part of the game works super well. It makes the studio feel so big, and I think that's awesome. It adds so much depth to it. So, the first thing you're probably going to do is you're going to find this giant freaking, basically like a shotgun, which can take out most enemies in one hit, and it's pretty freaking awesome. Then, Ricky tells you about Ray, who's basically like the Oscar the Grouch of this universe. He's a grouchy guy who hides in pipes and tries to beat you up. He's not the kindest guy. You could even say he's not really a friendly neighbor. So unfunny. Eventually, you make it to this stage area, which is where Ray is, and he's trying to break this pipe, and you kind of just scare him off. But then, this absolutely disgusting thing happens. Just watch. Yeah, I don't know why that happened. Apparently, it was a glitch that happened while the devs were playtesting the game, and they kind of refined it and kept it in the game as kind of just a creepy scripted event. That absolutely got me so bad on my first playthrough. But I don't know, man. That's like probably one of the scariest parts of this game, because it was genuinely kind of freaking creepy. Eventually, though, we get to this puzzle with these shapes and these clocks and stuff, and I don't really want to go over the whole puzzle because it's a little boring to explain, but I just want to say it's a really, really well done puzzle. The devs knew what they were doing with this, and it was really fun to figure out on my first playthrough, even though there was a note that I found afterwards that kind of explained how to do it that I just didn't find, so I kind of trialed and errored my way through it, which was so fun. And then after a little bit more exploring, you come to this panel over here where you need to find 4 little fuses. I'm not going to bore you with the details though, so I'm just going to wrap it up by saying we start the breaker, we get some, I think these are like chain cutters, I don't know the technical term, and then we take an elevator up to the next part of the game, which is... So now, I actually really, really like this part of the game. This is where the game really started getting me invested, really got me hooked when I first played it. Essentially, in this section of the game, you're in the little office area of the studio. And this is where you meet one of the funniest characters in the whole game, and it is Goblet. Now, I say funny, but this character is actually kind of sad. She is this big green monster who's just really, really lonely. Now, there's a whole side quest with her that I personally haven't done once again, but I've seen plenty of videos on it, and it's really, really sweet. You basically just become her friend in the end. It's, I don't know, it really tugs on the heartstrings in a really weird way, even though she is kind of trying to kill you. And now, this section of the game has a ton of different puzzles to do. First off, there's this little board game puzzle, which is actually really well done, but it's probably one of my least favorite puzzles in the game, because it's very, very RNG based. I mean, you gotta get super lucky that the Norman that you're playing against is really, really bad at the game, because if you're out of heals, then you might be kind of screwed on this one. And then after this, you have to find 4 different masks that you put on these little gold statues in a certain order. And then it gives you these dice, which you put into this machine. And then you get this water tank that goes onto one of the generators downstairs, and then that powers up the elevator that takes you up into like the kind of studio office, like the really fancy place that's really nice. And this is where you get the key to finally escape. And actually, there was one more thing that I didn't mention about this before. You basically get a freaking letter grenade in this part, which is absolutely awesome. You can actually find a couple of them in this section. In order to get one of the masks, you have to unlock this little case right here, and then a bunch of puppets spawn in, and you got to use the grenade right there to kill all of them. It did not work for me. I definitely waited too long, and I got like freaking jumped. But it's alright, it was fine in the end. But now going back to where we were before, we come back down the elevator, and we hear a loud crash. And then we walk back out into the main lobby area, and there is this giant freaking purple thing, and its name is Curtain Call. It's a really cool boss. And if you have some punctuations, which is what the grenade's called, then you're pretty much set. Just throw like 1 or 2 of them at her, and she's done for. Basically, just keep shooting her eyes, and she's gonna shoot some puppets at you, and she's gonna vomit some of like the little like ventriloquist puppets, I think they are, which I freaking love these guys. I haven't mentioned them yet, but they are so adorable. And then once you knock out all of her eyes, she leaves, and you get to go into the next part of the game, which is... Now, this section is pretty cool because it's not just the gardens, it's more so taking you back through the entire game. Basically, you start in the gardens, and you are tasked with finding 3 different liquids around the studio, which are used to make this, like, jam solvent, which is used on the purple stuff that was on the elevator door at the very beginning of the game. I don't think I mentioned it. And it's here where we finally meet the dogs, who are very cute, but are also very annoying because even if you knock them out, they're down for like 5 seconds. But essentially, finding these liquids pretty much goes like this. First, you find some film developer in the sewer section, which you can access by taking this little elevator down. And then going back up to the surface, you can find the trumpet polish in the music department. And then you top it all off by finding the playground key in the studio area. And then you do this little puzzle in the wooden play area, where you basically have to look for all the different characters that are surrounding the gardens, and you have to find where they are, and you place them on this little map. It's actually a really creative puzzle. I looked up how to do it the first time I played this, and I kind of regret doing that, because it's actually a very, very well done puzzle that I really, really liked figuring out by myself. It was very cool. And then once you finally do that, you get the weed killer, which is the 3rd and final liquid that is needed to make the jam solvent. And then, of course, there's a little puzzle that you do to, like, actually make it. And this is kind of a janky one to do. When I've done it the right way, I've never really had issues doing it. But I can see if your timing's not the best, it can be a little wonky because you have to hold these buttons for a kind of specific amount of time for each one. But then once you do that and you use the jam solvent, you go up this elevator, and we are in the end game. So part 5 kind of stretches from here to the end of the game, and it's honestly kind of an easy section to get through. Basically, you wind up in what's kind of like a penthouse suite, and there's this really weird guy playing the piano, and it is not the nicest thing, and Gordon does not have a lot of nice things to say about it. So you do this really awesome cooking puzzle that's probably my favorite one in the entire game. I freaking love this puzzle. It is unbelievably creative, and it makes a lot of sense once you do it, like, for the first time, but this thing confused me to no end until I finally did it. Basically, you mix some hot sauce, some chili, and a banana, and it somehow makes a purple key that is then used in this room to kind of like Indiana Jones item swap, so that the latch doesn't fall over the door and you can kind of like get out of the room with the purple key. And it's just super creative, like, and it's also not even that hard to understand, which is really good. I think something a lot of Mascot horror games can learn from, Hello Neighbor, is having puzzles that are really cool in concept, but also make sense to a normal player in execution. Also, by the way, during this section, you're trying to find a bunch of puzzle pieces that are used to turn on the lights and kind of create this little picture. But then we get to something that's really interesting to me. Basically, behind this bookshelf is a secret passageway that kind of takes you behind this whole cardboard set. And I mean, it takes you to a pool, it takes you outside, it takes you to this little art gallery where you got to put in like a certain code that's based on these drawings that you find in the book inside of the purple key room. And it's honestly like some really fascinating stuff. There's some little lore notes here. Personally, that was an awful voice crack. Personally, I haven't read them, but I'm sure they're very, very interesting. And then eventually you complete the puzzle and turn on the lights, and then you come face to face with this freaking awesome guy. I love this man so much. His name is Arnold, and he is the goofiest guy. He just wants to play his piano, and he asks Gordon to play a little duet with him, and he claps for us and everything. He thinks we had an amazing performance. And then he so nicely just lets us, like, go up to the roof. I mean, this guy's the actual GOAT. I freaking love him. And he doesn't even try and kill us. Like, dude, is this even a Mascot horror game? And then eventually, once we're on the roof, we climb up to the antenna, where we finally meet face to face with Ricky once again, which is the first time we've seen him since the gardens. And honestly, we have a really interesting scene. Basically, what happens is Ricky's telling us to not disable the antenna, because the My Friendly Neighborhood, like, TV show is trying to make people's lives happier and better, because people live such miserable and sad lives, especially in the city. And so Ricky's whole goal with putting these guys back on the air was to try and help people and make people's lives better, which is really freaking interesting. That makes for a really great moral dilemma within the story that I really wasn't expecting. Like, it's kind of a touching scene. Like, go watch it on YouTube or watch my playthrough of it, because I don't know, man, I was kind of taken back by this. Like, of all games, I wasn't expecting My Friendly Neighborhood to kind of have like this philosophical question, but in the end, we do disable the broadcast. But wait, there's more. Lightning strikes us as we do this, and it brings us to the secret part 6 of this video. Now, this section is pretty freaking awesome. This is when the devs kind of realized, okay, so this game is technically a horror game. It's supposed to be scary. So let's kind of just like put all the scary stuff in. Why not? Now, I wouldn't call this like an actually scary section, but compared to the rest of the game, this section is pretty insanely creepy. So we fall down into this like kind of secret part of the facility, and we're met face to face with this creepy June bug with a lot of teeth, and I don't like it. And basically Ricky tells us that we have now entered the unfriendly neighborhood, which has the best name ever. It's so freaking creative. I don't think I could have come up with anything better. In order to escape, we have to turn on the breaker on the other side of the unfriendly neighborhood, which is full of these extra twisted puppets that are very, very creepy and have a lot of teeth for some reason. After the show got shut down, they watched like normal TV, and this is what it did to them. And then we are met with the final boss of the game. And this boss is called the Amalga Puppet, which is honestly an insanely tough name. I think that there's no better way to freaking describe whatever the heck this is, because I didn't even know what it was on my first playthrough. I wouldn't really say this is like a great boss fight or anything. It's a Mascot horror boss fight. It's not super complex, it's not super difficult, but there are two ways of getting out of this fight. One, you can just kind of wait for the gate to raise once you flip the lever, or two, you can actually kill it. And in this playthrough, I actually killed the monster because I just kind of escaped on the first one. And you actually get an achievement for doing both, so you kind of have to play this game more than once if you really want to like get all the achievements. And after this fight, you head up the elevator to your freedom. And here you'll find what's genuinely kind of a beautiful note, both to the audience of the original show and also kind of the player. Now, I'm actually going to go ahead and read it. I don't know if this will make the final cut of the video, but I really just like this letter a lot. It says, "Dear children, I'm sorry to announce that this will be our final episode. I wanted to take a moment to address you personally, so that you may have a final lesson to remember after we're gone. Our world can be hard and scary. It can sometimes be difficult to know what's right and wrong, because the world is broken, and we're broken too. Our hearts are hollow and dark and unfriendly, but there is nothing in this world that can fix us. No beauty, no power, no food, no fame. What we need is for a light beyond our world, the light that is also love, to reach down and seize our hearts and bring us back to itself. In our show, we've tried to give you a glimpse of that light. So the message I want to leave you is this: have faith in the light. Sometimes it may be scary, sometimes it may hurt, sometimes it's hard to know what's right and wrong, because good and bad are all jumbled and confusing. And when that happens, it can hurt a lot. But have faith in the light, because the light will rescue you from the darkness. That's kind of beautiful. I don't know why. I don't know why I find that so beautiful. Let me know what you think of that letter, like, specifically in the comments down below, because I genuinely think that's a really good way to sum up, like, the themes and message of this game. In a sense, the puppets and Ricky are right. They're trying to make people's lives better. It's kind of just like the way they do it probably isn't the best. And eventually, we meet back up with Ricky, and he offers us a job. He asks us if we want to help him run the studio, because him and the puppets really just need a guiding hand to get things back on track. And, of course, there's two different endings to this. In this playthrough that I'm showing, I chose the bad ending because in my first playthrough, I chose the good one, and it's really, really sad if I'm being honest. I'll play it for you guys right now.
After I got back to the office, my boss told me that everyone was really happy with what I did, even though the puppets messed up another night's snooze. I got promoted to manager, got an office with a window. But for some reason, I can't stop thinking about the neighborhood. For the next few months, I actually started watching the nightly news. Don't know why. Maybe I just wanted to see if something happened. But nothing happened. And at some point, I got distracted and forgot about it.
But if you choose the good ending, I'll play the original clip from my video because I think I had a pretty good reaction to it, and I still kind of feel the same way about it. I did it!
I helped the neighbors get a slot on public access TV. It was late night on weekdays. I don't think anyone watched it. Within a couple of weeks, though, word was starting to get out. Some people loved the show, some people hated it. That caught the network's attention. And by the end of the year, we had 3 channels wanting to sign for a whole season.
What? That's all. We got the best ending.
So I stopped showing up at the studio in the evenings. I don't know. I guess I just wanted to keep my head down. I never told anyone I was helping bring back the show.
Whoa.
But for some reason...
We're such a good guy.
I can't forget about it. And some nights, I catch myself staring out the window, wondering what's happening in the neighborhood.
What a good ending! Oh my god! Wow! That is... This game has a genuinely beautiful ending, really, no matter which one you choose. And I don't know if this ending varies depending on how many of the characters you actually help, because, like I said before, I think I only helped, like, 1 or 2 of them. But the fact that both of these endings will give you a satisfying final bow to your playthrough is kind of freaking awesome. And also, the ending credits music is absolutely awesome. I think it's really funny. And that's My Friendly Neighborhood, an absolutely fantastic mascot horror game that really hasn't gotten enough credit over the past 2 years of it being out in full. If you haven't already, please check this game out for yourself, especially if you're a fan of Resident Evil style games or mascot horror style games. This game really has something for everybody, and I think it has such a good story, plus amazing gameplay that had me hooked. Like once I got into some kind of rhythm with it, it was just so much fun to just play through this thing. And I've only played through it on normal difficulty, and I've heard survival mode and the ones above it, like veteran mode, are absolutely insane. And that's kind of the really awesome part about this game, is that it keeps throwing more challenges at you once you finish it. I mean, on the playthrough that I showed in the video, I didn't save once and I didn't use duct tape once, and I was pretty freaking proud of that, because these were pretty hard to get in their own right. So I couldn't even imagine doing like a veteran mode playthrough. Let me know if you guys have done something like that. So far, there's really no news of any sequels or of any other like spin-off games, and kind of for good reason. I really don't think this game needs a sequel or any real follow-up. If anything, a movie would be really cool, because I think this is a great concept. And the game really has a lot to say about like society and what it means to like be happy and how darkness kind of like takes you over. It's genuinely a really, really interesting story. And all of this leads me to believe that this game is indeed peak mascot horror. I've been Benjerizer. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!